Loadholt and having Sully back and having Berger, and if we're going to keep Fusco, who's under contract and might not be able to be moved, might just have to straight up cut him. Khalil, like I said, the backup slash heir to Khalil is really the only open spot on this roster on the offensive line. Period. And like I said, if the Vikings feel that guy is there at 23, then yeah, we might take him. But I don't think that guy's going to be there at 23 the way offensive linemen, especially left tackles, get drafted. And B, we're ready to win now. So you want a guy in the first round that at least has the opportunity and possibility to contribute to your team winning the ultimate prize this next season. The way that Trey Waynes had the opportunity last year, there was a job opening for him. He wasn't able to seize it the way that people wanted to, but look for him to try and get that number 2 starting corner job this year and start alongside Xavier Rhodes and have Captain Munnerlyn in the nickel, and then you got Harrison Smith and one other safety, and oh my gosh, you got maybe the best secondary, if definitely one of the top 5 secondaries in the league. But it comes down to Trey Waynes progressing and earning that starting job, and it also comes down to getting a complimentary safety to go along with Harrison Smith back there. And while we re-signed Sendejo and brought in Michael Griffin, make no mistake, those are just veteran depth insurance measures. That is all they are. We are still looking for a bona fide, legitimate starting safety to complement Harrison Smith, and that is a worthy first-round need to address. But again, we don't know that the player is there. The one other long shot that I would like, well, 2 other long shots I'd like to throw out there. Outside linebacker with the talent that there is in this draft at the defense, in the front 7 of the defense, linebackers and defensive line. But also combine that with, we could use a third stud outside linebacker. We signed this Lamour guy from Cincinnati. We signed this Lewis guy from Detroit, but we really don't know what we got in those guys. We've got Edmund Robinson from last year. Again, could be a work in progress. Don't know where he's at. That could be considered, a job that is still up for grabs and worthy of our first round pick. If there's a player with the talent there that we think is, someone you can't pass up. And then finally, it would definitely mean the end of Kyle Rudolph's days here in Minnesota. But if we feel that the number 1 tight end, the Henry kid out of Arkansas, is a perennial 10 to 15 year starter and Pro Bowl talent and can't miss offensive weapon that can both, is complete run block and passing threat, receiving threat, I should say, as everything I understand. Based off of what I read, he's just not dynamic or explosive, but there's really no weaknesses. He's as well-rounded and can do everything as you want. That would be another way to add offensive weapons to the offense for Teddy and improve the offensive firepower, which is by far the number 1 goal to come out of in this draft, is to just, the whole offseason, free agency and draft, improve the offense. The offense was not what it needed to be last year, and the defense had plenty of room for improvement too. So that brings us to one bit of Vikings defensive news that came through today. You might not know it, but Vikings linebacker Chad Greenway finally re-signed a 1-year deal to stay with the Minnesota Vikings for what will almost certainly be his farewell season in the National Football League. And how sweet would that be if it resulted in a Vikings championship? It'd be a great way for Chad to ride off into the sunset and close out his career in the National Football League and here in Minnesota. We're happy to have Chad back because we really like Chad as a person, and Chad has always been a good player, but it is inarguable that Chad's productivity and ability has very much declined over the past 2 to 4 seasons, and he is nowhere near the Pro Bowl stud that we enjoyed early on in his career. but we are happy to have him sign back and provide depth and leadership for this Vikings team next season. And again, we like the guy a lot. We wish him nothing but the best, and we're happy to have him for one more year. All right, well, that's it for football talk. Boom, see, we're getting this. Let's get to Major League Baseball. And again, the big news from Major League Baseball is that next week the season starts. April 3rd, Sunday night, small handful of games, maybe 2 or 3, opening off the season. And then the Minnesota Twins, along with the majority of the rest of Major League Baseball teams, will open their season on Monday, April 4th. And we will be doing the show next week on Wednesday, April 6th, or Thursday, April 7th. And that is when I will be revealing my Major League Baseball preseason preview extravaganza, where I will pick where every team in the league finishes, as I did last year. And I did remarkably well, actually, last year. And this year I'm even more educated and in the know and connected with what's going on in pro baseball. So I'm looking at super duper forward to that. It's going to be a very, very heavy baseball show next week with an extremely large side order of golf. And then we'll be talking end of regular season hockey, end of regular season basketball, championship, Final Four, men's and women's college basketball. Holy cow, it's going to be a huge, epic show next week. But the one big baseball news announced this week pertaining to my and possibly your Minnesota Twins that I wanted to get to is it has been decided who will be the 5th starting pitcher in the Minnesota Twins pitching rotation, and that honor goes to No Lasko. Ricky No Lasko. Oh, can't stand Ricky No Lasko. Ugh. But he will be our 5th starter, and the person who got demoted, ironically enough, was the guy who I was high on for being our 2 or 3 starter in the rotation going into the season, and that is the young Tyler Duffy, who pitched extremely well last year when called up to the big show with an ERA just over 3 last year. He was planned on to continue to improve and do big things, but he struggled a little bit here in spring training. Not a ton, not anything that alarms you, but he didn't win any of the jobs that were up for grabs, and thus with his age and his contract situation and other players' contract situations, he was by far the easiest person, not necessarily the right person or the best person, but the easiest person to pull out of that starting rotation contention where we had 6 or 7 guys trying to fight for 5 spots yet. So Duffy, called down, will not be starting the season on the main roster, but hopefully, best case scenario, Nolasco comes out, has a couple decent, acceptable, stomachable, we'll settle for, outings. Shows that he's at least got a little bit of pop in his arm. He's reaching some good numbers on the radar gun or something at least, to where we could find somebody who would be willing to trade for him and get anything in return. Literally, some Cracker Jacks would suffice. But that is best case scenario. And Nolasco uses this opportunity to increase, or create, I should say, some trade value, and then we are able to move his giant, worthless, horrible mistake of a contract, and everyone can move on to bigger and better things. Twins and Ricky Nolasco included, but alas, he will be starting the season. Hopefully Duffy can pitch well in the minors and then get called up. That's going to be the interesting thing. I think that creates the new interesting question, and that's going to be no, that's not going to be, I don't know. No, let's do it now. It's not going to be our Balls Deep Thought of the day. Who's going to be the first starting pitcher called up from the Twins? It's been believed to be Barrios this whole time. It's just a matter of, getting a little bit of time off the main roster for him so that we can have another year of control on his contract. That's the only issue where we're at right now with him, or at least that's what I believe and what I've been led to believe by more intelligent baseball experts than myself. But with Duffy down there and, Alex Myers down there, we've got so much invested in him. There's another guy, I'm blanking on the name right now. I don't have time, whatever. But going to be interesting to see who the first call-up from the minors to the Twins pitching staff is and how he fits in. But hopefully it will be to replace the soon-to-be traded Ricky Nolasco. Can't get rid of him soon enough. Pitch good enough so that we can get rid of you, Ricky. Please, for the love of Jiminy Cricket. All right, that's it for baseball news. And we've only got the world of basketball left. That's it. That's right. One freaking sport left. World of basketball. Granted, we got 3 branches that we're going to break it down into. So we'll start with the pros, and then we'll finish with the big college tournaments and what happened there, what's going to be happening in the near future, and then closing, as always, with our Balls Deep thought of the day. Well, when we're talking NBA basketball here on Balls Deep Sports Talk, we usually like to start with my and possibly your Minnesota Timberwolves, who are coming off of what head coach for now, hopefully at least, Sam Mitchell, referred to as the worst loss of the season for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Apparently, he doesn't remember the first 50 losses. Or the 49 or whatever it is that came before this, because there have been losses that were as bad or worse than the one last night that took place at the Target Center against the Los Angeles Clippers. Chris Paul just lit us up. Tyus Jones is in total starstruck the whole time when he was out there. Levine didn't play the greatest. Wiggins and Cat's always a freaking stud. He never has an off game. So the real deal. Oh my gosh. Talk about a building block. And Wiggins continues to get more consistent offensively with his scoring. If we could simply get him to cut the turnovers offensively and up the defense a little bit on the other side of the court, he could be a bona fide star, number 2, occasional number 1 player on a playoff caliber NBA team. But he's not quite there yet. Sam Mitchell ripped on how he doesn't want to hear about how good this team can be and how they're not good enough right now to show up, into a building and just play ball and win. And, I really hope, I really, really hope that Sam Mitchell is not the coach of this team at the beginning of next season. We need a real coach. You cannot throw away another crucial year of development on Cat, Wiggins, and Levine next year with a crummy head coach, if that is in fact what we have, which I believe, my personal basketball mind analysis, I believe that is what we have. And we do not have a coach that can teach all these young stars that we have to build with how to play defense and how to play team ball, and all these other things, how to survive through the grind both mentally and physically of the NBA regular season. Just get Sam Mitchell out. I will sign every petition possible to accomplish said thing. Let's just get Sam Mitchell out. That's off-season priority numero uno. And then taking a look around the league, we got a really balls juicy story to discuss when we're done. But the Golden State Warriors are still on pace to tie or break the all-time NBA record for wins in a season held by the 95-96 Chicago Bulls, who had the record of 72-10. The Golden State Warriors are currently 68-7. That means that they have 4 more wins to tie the record. How many games they got? Let's do some math here real quick. They have played 75 games, so they've got 7 games left to play. Need to win 4 to tie the record. 4 out of 7 to tie the best ever. 5 out of 7 or better to become the best ever. Now, I want to say they have the Spurs twice in there, so that could be 2 losses right there. And, like I said, it's 5 to break it. But the Golden State Warriors, very possibly, very likely, will tie or break history. They've got a game with the T-Wolves coming up here. T-Wolves could play epic, historic spoiler coming up here next week. Keep a lookout for that. Check the internet for your T-Wolves schedule. I want to say that might be Sunday night. It might be. And I want to say they flexed it now to where it's going to be televised on TNT or TBS, a rare national television